Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the show that goes inside the trillion-dollar business of sports, maybe even more. It is October. We've talked about how wonderful October is. Major League Baseball, the second round, maybe third if you count wild card round of the playoffs. Numbers we'll talk about as well. NFL, first quarter, owners' meetings, off-field issues as well. College football, we're already worried about who's in the playoff, and it's only mid-October. Hockey opening, focus on basketball this week. It's opening. We have a significant guest today. We had an interview that debuted our Beyond the Scoreboard television piece for NBC Washington that started in July and ran a few times. Zach Leonsis, Monumental Sports, his significant input on the basketball and the hockey side. We're going to have this full interview today, and we're going to talk about many things, not just basketball, soccer, hockey, but esports and otherwise. And by the way, if you want to see all of the issues this week lined up, 15 to watch, 5 tech, 5 power, look at NBCWashington.com, look at our website, Horrow Sports, at Rick Horrow, just lined up easily for you to take a look at. You'll be up to date with all of the issues all week. Also, subscribe to us on Apple iTunes feed. Look for us on Stitcher, Google Play, Audio Boom, and wherever fine content is sold. But first, let's talk about the NBA and NHL opening. NBA first. The season kicks off this week, and the global reach continues to expand. Adam Silver claiming the league can be the number one sport in the world. NBA opened up 12 international offices, establishing 7 academies, 4 continents, started broadcasting games to more than 200 countries and territories. 300 million people are playing the game for fun in China alone. The NBA heads back to Mexico and England for regular contests, and the Sixers and Mavericks played exhibitions in China. In that country, NBA China CEO Derek Chang said the biggest market outside the U.S. is China, close to 200 people in total on staff, significant offices in Beijing and Shanghai.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow. We pick up right where we left off.
Total on staff, significant offices in Beijing and Shanghai. Chang noted the NBA's first game broadcast in China was in '87 and the first live broadcast in '94. Of course, the NBA doesn't have a monopoly on scheduling regular season games abroad. The NFL, in its midst of a 3-game stand in London, and the NHL traveled to China in the preseason, holding a 2-game series in Finland in November. We'll talk about the NHL and NFL in just a minute. But other NBA issues, LeBron, it's real, the effect is real, ask the Lakers. John Wall Street says that the Lakers' first 2 preseason games are in the books, and more. Merchandise sales up 100% year over year. In terms of filling seats at Staples, the Lakers had little work to do after last year, averaging a 99, big mistake, 0.3% occupancy rate for home games. King James had an impact on ticket prices in the secondary market as well. The average price to see a Lakers home game up 427% year over year. StubHub says. Demand skyrocketed since James landed in L.A., and the team claims that based on StubHub, the source the club uses to determine the intrinsic value of their tickets, they can sell out an arena with 31,000 seats, 10,000 more than what Staples Center can currently hold. And while the Lakers are once again in a big draw both at home and on the road, in Cleveland, the Cavaliers left scrambling to maintain ticket sales. Len Komaraski, the president of the organization, will be on in a couple weeks to explain how they do that. Seattle isn't the only city looking to land an NBA expansion team these days. Montreal Gazette says an investment group from that city recently made their case to the Montreal Board of Trade regarding landing an expansion franchise there. The Brooklyn Nets and Toronto Raptors recently played a preseason game in the city, promoted extensively by NBA Canada. And despite the league not having any clear plans to expand in the near future, Montreal is preparing itself should the day ever come when they're called on. Members of the investment group said the NBA has been made aware of the interest, which originated in 2014. It's been ramped up with the addition of Garda World CEO Stephen Cretier as a main investor. The group also informed NBA Commissioner Adam Silver that while they recognize Montreal isn't on anybody's short list, they don't mind on Plan B and the long list. It's worth noting, by the way, the Canadians had the NHL's second best attendance last year, averaging 22,000 fans, barely an ice sliver down from the Blackhawks at a little over 21,000 fans. When you take a look at the NBA, it's got some very interesting perspective otherwise, too. The new stadium or facilities around the country usually have a honeymoon period for more attendance. Not so in Detroit. Bright fixtures have been noteworthy for highlighting empty seats during Red Wings and Pistons broadcasts. Both teams claim that the fans are actually in the stadium, but are in the clubs and bars instead of their seats. Last season, the Pistons finished 19th in the NBA in terms of overall attendance, averaging just over 17,500 fans per game, but finished with the second worst occupancy percentage of the league at a little under 83%. The Red Wings actually among the top 5 in the NHL in terms of attendance, but this team still wants the seat color change at Little Caesars. While a black seat may provide better camouflage than a bright red one, winning would be the best solution for everybody. Yeah, exactly. Well, before we do the Leonsis interview, it's only fair to do the NHL as well as the NBA. By the way, I don't know if you knew it, but the Capitals won the Cup. Everybody in D.C. knows that. And we'll talk a bit about where we are now and where we're going. But first, take a look at some NHL national issues. Only weeks ago, anything connected to gambling was taboo in pro sports. Feels like weeks, actually years. Now, a Vegas-based slot machine manufacturer talking with the NHL about the idea of using the Golden Knights logo and mark on casino slot machines. According to LV Sport Biz, American Gaming Systems displayed a slot machine in the Golden Knights secondary logo at this week's Global Gaming Expo in Vegas. But that was strictly for promotional and marketing purposes. AGS Executive VP said that the company is analyzing whether that particular slot machine would make financial sense. AGS currently employs an electronic animated version of the Golden Knights helmet on roulette signage. The 3-year sponsorship deal between the Golden Knights and AGS came after the gaming equipment supplier wanted to create a T-shirt with the Golden Knights during their surprising Stanley Cup run. A company had to be a corporate partner with the Golden Knights to have a rally towel or T-shirt during the postseason. The Golden Knights actually breaking down gambling and pro sports Chinese wall, and soon-to-be NFL Raiders may have other sports franchises benefiting also. How about other issues with the NHL? Maple Leaf center Austin Matthews and Blackhawks right wing Patrick Kane exchanged jeers after each scored a goal within the final minutes of regulation during a wild 7-6 win for the Leafs over the Blackhawks. The Hurricanes now have one of the league's best post-game celebrations. After a win, the whole team applauds the crowd before skating from their own blue line to the other end of the ice and jumping into the boards. This playful nature is one thing that the NHL has lacked compared to the NBA and NFL. With more fun, expect more fans. We've seen it elsewhere. And to the fun mix, add the gritty. The startling new puppet-like orange Philadelphia Flyers mascot, who calls his fans Grittisons, has been on with Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and others mere weeks after amassing 136,000 followers. How's that? Finally, with the NHL, Sportsnet offering a live Twitter broadcast to provide fresh perspective on hockey. Sportsnet's experimental ice surfing show hit the rink in March 2008. With little warning, the numbers were astounding. 600,000 total viewers in their first Twitter live stream. According to Mobile Syrup, ice surfing is now a weekly live hockey broadcast on Twitter, slated to air every Thursday. The show will bounce from game to game, providing fans with analysis, highlights, and on-ice action. Hosting the Twitter stream will be television personality Jeff Merrick, who will be accompanied by analyst Jason York and hockey YouTuber Steve Dangle Glynn. Part of what makes ice surfing so dynamic is that it blends different technological mediums to experience a game and allows for real-time tweeting on some platform as the show is broadcast. Due to the fact that Sportsnet has the national broadcast broadcast rights for the NHL. Hashtag ice surfing can tap into league's entire universe and has seemingly limitless possibilities to integrate special guests, live polls, trending tweets and advertisement, all to the benefit of the live audience. Well, everybody talks about internet, social, esports, and like. No one does it better than the Leonsis family. Ted Leonsis and his son Zach, involved in monumental sports, the Caps, the Wizards. He'll tell you during the interview how many teams he actually deals with. But as we just did with hockey, as we just did with basketball, it takes leadership and vision. Nobody better than Zach Leonsis from our Beyond the Scoreboard television show debuting this last July. Things happened pretty significantly here in Washington in this spring, and it's going to happen again, but one of the primary reasons, and the family, the Leonsis family, Ted and son Zach Leonsis, the senior vice president in Monumental Sports. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's been a great off-season. Summer of Stanley.
Yeah, so by the way, are you taking the Stanley Cup all over the country and drinking from it like everybody else?
To be honest, I did drink from the cup. I really enjoyed that experience. But the cup is worldwide right now. It was in Russia. It was in the Czech Republic. It's actually back in North America. It's back in Canada at this moment.
Relive the Stanley Cup run through the eyes of Caps ownership and the parade. Talk a little bit about all that.
I think the Stanley Cup run was not a single season in the making. Clearly, it's a decade in the making. And, it starts from when we rebuilt the club, and that wasn't always the most popular decision. Everyone wants to win. We want to win more than anyone on the planet. And so I don't think we can emphasize community enough when it comes to building a championship team. When we were, going down Constitution.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow, the sports professor. We're going to rewind our featured interview, reset the show a little bit, and pick up from there. Here's Rick Horrow.
Well, everybody talks about internet, social, esports, and like. No one does it better than the Leonsis family. Ted Leonsis and his son Zach, involved in monumental sports, the Caps, the Wizards. He'll tell you during the interview how many teams he actually deals with. But as we just did with hockey, as we just did with basketball, it takes leadership and vision. Nobody better than Zach Leonsis from our Beyond the Scoreboard television show debuting this last July. Things happened pretty significantly here in Washington in this spring, and it's going to happen again, but one of the primary reasons, and the family, the Leonsis family, Ted and son Zach Leonsis, the senior vice president in Monumental Sports. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's been a great off-season. Summer of Stanley.
So by the way, are you taking the Stanley Cup all over the country and drinking from it like everybody else?
To be honest, I did drink from the cup. I really enjoyed that experience. But the cup is worldwide right now. It was in Russia. It was in the Czech Republic. It's actually back in North America. It's back in Canada at this moment.
Relive the Stanley Cup run through the eyes of Caps ownership and the parade. Talk a little bit about all that.
I think the Stanley Cup run was not a single season in the making. Clearly, it's a decade in the making. And, it starts from when we rebuilt the club, and that wasn't always the most popular decision. Everyone wants to win. We want to win more than anyone on the planet. And so I don't think we can emphasize community enough when it comes to building a championship team. When we were, going down Constitution Avenue and looking at all the people in the stands, you see children and families and parents. Those are memories with our team that will be shared and had forever. Growing up here, I always remembered people talking about the Redskins parade, and now I hope this next generation of fans who didn't have an opportunity to see that championship parade. Now this is their championship moment, and they will always have that.
Well, and the beauty of this, as you know, is 2, 4, 6 years from now, 4 million people would have said they were at the parade. Right? Exactly the way All-Star way. Yeah, of course they will. And the other benefit and advantage here, the ancillary businesses, the TV ratings, obviously the local team league ratings with the Caps driving it, really important crescendo.
Yep.
Probably feel good about that as well.
Yeah, it's a great time to be at NBC Sports Washington. I think that the ratings hike will follow through into next season. For the longest time, I think we've fostered a really great youth hockey culture here in Washington, D.C. And we've been the second fastest growing market in the country. I think that with this championship win, hopefully we can move into the first place category. We're so lucky to have players like Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom. I mean, they have ignited the interest of a younger audience that will be Caps fans for a long time to come.
So you got 30 seconds to list all of your properties. Go.
Okay. Capitals, Wizards, Mystics, Washington Valor, Baltimore Brigade, Capital City Go-Go launching in the fall, Wizard District Gaming, Team Liquid, Capital One Arena. We operate Kettler Capitals Iceplex, Ego Bank Arena. We're launching the new ESA at St. Elizabeth, the practice facility for the Wizards, and a 4,500 person arena there. We're proud partners in NBC Sports Washington here, and we've launched our own OTT network, Monumental Sports Network. How was that? How did we do on time?
23, 22 seconds?
That's pretty good.
What's the biggest business thing you've learned from your dad?
Hard to answer in just one question. Sure. I think that fortunately, because I am his son, we have a lot of the same mannerisms, and we think the same way. We're in lockstep for the majority of the time. I like to see how he connects dots across seemingly very diverse verticals or industries. He's really able to sit in a perch where he sees a lot of different activity that not many other people have an opportunity to see, and so he's able to create opportunities and create connections. Sometimes we talk about mashing up different schools of thought to create something very creative and unique, and I think that that's been reflected in some of our media partnership deals, some of our investment thesis and the like. We certainly have a lot of fun, that's for sure. What's important to us is showing empathy.
Yeah.
It's really important to understand where other people are coming from and to understand other people's perspectives. We're very proud that our organization, features a lot of diversity. The Washington Post just recently announced that Monumental was one of the top workplaces in the region, and I think that has to do with the diversity of our staff and how many women we employ. I think compared to other sports organizations, that's something we're really proud about. My dad won the WISE Award, Women in Sports. So that was very meaningful and important for us.
Is the NBA moving in the right direction under Adam Silver?
Oh, Commissioner Silver might be the best commissioner of all of sports. He is such a genuine and wonderful person. I don't think there's...
Tied with Gary, 1-1A.
Yeah, Gary is fantastic as well. Commissioner Bettman, I should say.
Yeah, right.
But Commissioner Silver is transparent. I think is very progressive in his thinking. Has definitely been trailblazing in terms of equality causes, but also with new emerging categories like sports betting and gaming. Yep. I don't think a lot of other leagues and businesses will shy away from a topic that they think might be a little taboo. we're adults.
He was out front first.
We need to be out front about some of these things too, and it's to the benefit of our players and the teams themselves. It really is a testament to our commissioner that our players really like him. Our players in the NBA really adore and respect the commissioner, and he's also ventured into new things like esports with the launch of the new NBA 2K League, and we're one of the 17 teams to launch a team, Wizards District Gaming. There's no doubt that esports is big and important and growing. It's hard to fill a building 41 nights a year, 41 regular season games plus playoffs, and we're able to do that for the Capitals and the Wizards. Esports isn't quite there yet. But
the city of Arlington is building that convention center for esports.
But that's part of the reason why esports is really interesting, because they're galvanizing these digital audiences all at once. The League of Legends World Championships. League of Legends is the biggest esport title out there. And in August, it generated about 90 million simultaneous viewers.
Yeah.
That is like a Super Bowl level event, but those are fewer and farther between. We've made an investment in an endemic esports team called Team Liquid, and Team Liquid competes across 13 different esport titles. It would be like having one team brand like the Capitals or the Wizards compete in hockey, basketball, baseball, football, and the like. Team Liquid competes in sports like League of Legends and Dota 2 and Counter-Strike Go and Halo and StarCraft and Super Smash Brothers and Rainbow Six.
By the way, for the older demographic, you can take a commercial break.
Yeah,
exactly. We'll come back, we'll explain it to you later. But some of these esports have become very popular and have become pretty lucrative too. This is a highly engaged audience that doesn't traditionally subscribe to cable or traditional media. They're more interested in new platforms like Twitch. It's funny, what's old is new again. Yeah. PBS always ran on viewers donating money. Right.
Now there are esports players who are streaming their practice, interacting with fans, participating in keyboard chat, and they're encouraging their fans to make a donation so they can keep going. And that's become a huge business.
By the way, I wish you were a little more passionate about esports.
I think that my dad and I think we like to build things.
Yeah.
I think we like to try to be at things from the start and be a part of the magic of the creation of where something heads. And the major four leagues, these are mature businesses. The NHL is 100 years old, and that is fabulous. The prestige with that is through the roof. Esports is just sort of an embryonic use case, and that's why it's so exciting to see what the future might hold. And it's so different from the traditional sports that we participate on. There's really something that traditional sports can learn from esports, and that esports can certainly learn from traditional sports.
Finally, where is Zach Leonis' Monumental Sports, kind of the whole business 10 years from now?
Good question. Hopefully, we've won another championship or two, maybe more. We'd like to continue to grow our enterprise in terms of teams, venues. We'd like to grow our media network presence. We'd like to become thought leaders in the gaming and gambling space. I think that will become particularly important. We are in alignment with the NBA for that matter. And we would like to craft brand new genres.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow. We pick up right where we left off.
With the launch of the new NBA 2K League, and we're one of the 17 teams to launch a team, Wizards District Gaming. There's no doubt that esports is big and important and growing. It's hard to fill a building 41 nights a year, 41 regular season games plus playoffs, and we're able to do that for the Capitals and the Wizards. Esports isn't quite there yet. But
the city of Arlington is building that convention center for esports.
But that's part of the reason why esports is really interesting, because they're galvanizing these digital audiences all at once. The League of Legends World Championships. League of Legends is the biggest esport title out there. And in August, it generated about 90 million simultaneous viewers.
Yeah.
That is like a Super Bowl level event, but those are fewer and farther between. We've made an investment in an endemic esports team called Team Liquid, and Team Liquid competes across 13 different esport titles. It would be like having one team brand like the Capitals or the Wizards compete in hockey, basketball, baseball, football, and the like. Team Liquid competes in sports like League of Legends and Dota 2 and Counter-Strike Go and Halo and StarCraft and Super Smash Brothers and Rainbow Six.
By the way, for the older demographic, you can take a commercial break.
Yeah,
exactly. We'll come back and we'll explain it to you later. But some of these esports have become very popular and have become pretty lucrative too. This is a highly engaged audience that doesn't traditionally subscribe to cable or traditional media. They're more interested in new platforms like Twitch. And you know, it's funny, what's old is new again. Yeah. PBS always ran on viewers donating money. Right.
Now there are esports players who are streaming their practice, interacting with fans, participating in keyboard chat, and they're encouraging their fans to make a donation so they can keep going. And that's become a huge business.
By the way, I wish you were a little more passionate about esports.
Well, I think that my dad and I think we like to build things.
Yeah.
I think we like to try to be at things from the start and be a part of the magic of the creation of where something heads. And you know, the major four leagues, these are mature businesses. The NHL is 100 years old, and that is fabulous. The prestige with that is through the roof. Esports is just sort of an embryonic use case, and that's why it's so exciting to see what the future might hold. And it's so different from the traditional sports that we participate on. There's really something that traditional sports can learn from esports, and that esports can certainly learn from traditional sports.
Finally, where is Zach Leonis' Monumental Sports, kind of the whole business 10 years from now?
Good question. Hopefully, we've won another championship or two, maybe more. We'd like to continue to grow our enterprise in terms of teams, venues. We'd like to grow our media network presence. We'd like to become thought leaders in the gaming and gambling space. I think that will become particularly important. We are in alignment with the NBA for that matter. And we would like to craft brand new genres, esports being one of them. I think we want to be in the front seat of new emerging categories.
Well, Zach certainly gives us a unique perspective. He's obviously a Renaissance man, and he also cuts across many, many sports. Good luck to repeat. They're well on their way. Despite a Red Sox-Yankees matchup turning to baseball, television ratings for the league divisional series came in at their lowest level since 2014. The 14 games that made up the series averaged 3.18 million viewers across TBS, FS1, and MLB Network this year, down a significant 13% from the 17 games played in the round last year. Two of the series were sweeps and no Game 5s at all. TBS on its own averaged 4.32 million viewers for the ALDS, which is the Nets' best average since 2015, when it carried a pair of the 5-game ALDS matchups. Red Sox clinching Game 4 against the Yankees was a huge highlight for TBS, as the Tuesday night matchup averaged 7 million viewers, the most viewed LDS Game 4 on any network dating back to 2007 and the Indians-Yankees game, which drew 9.23 million. The league's TV ratings will obviously benefit from having 4 popular, geographically diverse teams in the LCS round, regardless of who prevails, the Astros, Red Sox, or Brewers, Dodgers. How about them No, how about not them Nationals? Wait for next year, but there are obviously always issues when you talk about them. How about the NFL? Big week for them. Owners preparing a big vote at their fall meeting this week regarding cross-ownership. The decades-old rule currently prevents owners from the big 4 sports teams in NFL markets from buying a football team, those other owners, while also preventing NFL owners from buying non-NFL big 4 sports teams in an existing NFL market. The ballooning of franchise values has led owners to reconsider the rule due to the shrinking pool of potential buyers for clubs. To illustrate this, when the Carolina Panthers came up for sale earlier this year, only 3 bidders emerged before David Tepper bought the team for $2.257 billion, and even that NFL record-setting sale came under expectations. However, the league hasn't strictly upheld the cross-ownership rule. Back in 2010, Stan Kroenke exercised an option to buy the then St. Louis Rams despite owning the NBA's Denver Nuggets and NHL's Colorado Avalanche. Kroenke skirted around the rule, and he headed off to Colorado, as he also handed off the Colorado teams to other family members, setting precedent and setting up the NFL for a sensible rule change. Off-the-field issues, Twitch brings together charity and cheers during Thursday Night Football. In addition to Twitch's recent deal with Amazon and the NFL to stream football games on their platform, the video company announced a couple of new features that aim to make Thursday Night Football even more rewarding. One of the recent additions is the TNF Live extension, where viewers can make their personal coaching choices heard from the comfort of their couch by predicting how drives will end, who will win, and more. If outcomes are predicted correctly, the self-coaches will end up on Twitch's leaderboard. The other addition that runs through every TNF broadcast during October is that Twitch will donate $1 to the American Cancer Society for every 100 bits. The game's emotes, which act like a Facebook like, cheered. Further, when Super Bowl champion Shannon Sharp and Twitch icon Tim the Tatman teamed up to broadcast the stream for Colts versus Patriots, it proved Twitch has the star power and charitable drive that competes with other major broadcast networks. Worth watching, as the NFL bids may happen in the next couple of years. Other charity issues: Matt Stover, the former Ravens kicker, making the most of his career off the field with Players Philanthropy Fund. The former NFL All-Pro kicker started the Baltimore-based nonprofit to give back to other athletes so they have a chance to contribute to their communities through their personnel and creative philanthropic goals. PPF is a tax-exempt entity that takes the difficulty out of starting a new standalone organization by acting as an administrator for organizations to engage in philanthropy without fiscal, legal, and operational burdens. PPF currently works with more than 65 different charitable organizations across the country, including the Ed Reed Foundation and DeAndre Jordan's Treehouse Giving charity. It also supports organizations that increase resources for mental health issues, education concerns, pediatric cancer, military, veteran, and first responder assistance, homelessness, and starvation. A big deal. Stover's mission is to inspire change by educating, facilitating, and inspiring practice-based philanthropy through professional sports. Good for the NFL and obviously Good for Matt Stover. Let's look at soccer. St. Louis re-entered the race to land one of the two remaining MLS expansion teams. According to the Post-Dispatch, the company Enterprise leading the bid and working with Missouri Worldwide Technology CEO Jim Cavanaugh, a former pro soccer player who was part of last year's failed MLS team and stadium bid. The majority of the Taylor family members leading the group are women, which, if successful, would make the St. Louis club the first MLS franchise and one of the few ownership groups in pro sports controlled by women. One of the reasons the city's last bid failed was over financing of the $250 million 20,000-seat downtown stadium. The Taylors said the money needed to build the stadium would be overwhelmingly privately financed, and the MLS opportunity really isn't just about the sport. It's about redevelopment and being part of this resurgence that is happening in St. Louis. It's executive chair of Enterprise, Andy Taylor, and it would be almost like helping to fill the giant sports cavity left when the Rams left St. Louis for Arizona, left St. Louis for L.A. almost 3 years ago. Well, let's talk golf. We're almost done. We have a golf issue, and just let's remember that golf doesn't sleep when everybody else does. This is the regular season for next year's FedEx Cup. But in the meantime, the PGA Championship set to leave TNT for ESPN following next year's tournament, the end of the 29-year relationship between the tournament and Turner Sports, which has carried the event on TBS and TNT dating back to '91. CBS, the PGA Championship's other long-term media partner, was able to renew its deal to carry afternoon coverage on the weekend. Financial deals were not disclosed, but it's 11 years, and executives have described the rights as healthy. ESPN and CBS will now work together as partners for the first two majors on the annual golf calendar since the PGA moving to May from August next year, while CBS and ESPN have partnered on the Masters since 2008. This comes as a big win for CBS, making it the first sports deal sealed by Joe Iannello since he replaced Les Moonves as the head of the company last month. The PGA Championship has long been a stepchild of the PGA Tour's four majors, and here's hoping the calendar move and migration to the more robust sports partner in the early rounds will be an eagle, maybe a hole-in-one. Finally, let's talk tennis. That never sleeps. The next major is in Australia in January. We have championships held in China and other places. But how about this? The All England Club, home to Wimbledon, is looking to expand its grounds, but having a tough time acquiring necessary land. Wimbledon Park Golf Club has a massive say on Wimbledon's medium-term future as a Grand Slam event. Members of the London Golf Club recently met to discuss whether or not to allow a vote on the $85.4 million offer to buy its land. And if the vote goes through, the additional land...
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow. We pick up right where we left off.
And has the potential to completely transform the tennis grounds, helping to prevent Wimbledon from falling behind the other three in terms of facilities. Golf club members are poised to profit from the sale, with the All England Club offering members around $111,000 each before taxes to take over the 73 acres, and Wimbledon owns the golf's lease, so it would automatically acquire the land when it expires in 2041, but they want it earlier. When the club's adamant on striking a deal before that, they must be careful not to ruin the Wimbledon's elegance and charm through any massive expansion. Finally, remember I talked about prize money and Australia and the major. set to feature the highest prize money pool in tournament history. Tennis Australia and the Victoria state government announced a 10% increase in prize money, bringing the total pot up to $43 million. In Australian dollars, the total amount awarded in 18 was $55 million, and the new pot's about 60. The increase will help offset the Australian dollar's drop in value against the U.S. dollar when it went from 81 cents to 71 cents in exchange rates. The allocation of the money yet to be determined by the tournament organizers, but it'll be split equally between men's and women's tournaments as usual. This year, the winner of each singles took home $4 million Australian, and tournament director Craig Tilley said the Open is leading the way in terms of player compensation and will have the top 100 players in both the men's and women's events. The Australian Open also has more cash in hand thanks to a lucrative new deal in partnership with champagne maker Piper Heidsieck and a new arena naming rights deal with Tennis Australia. We covered a lot this week, a lot of different sports. More to come next week. World Series just around the corner. Like to thank Zach Leonsis for giving his time to us in a lot of different contexts. Like to thank Dan Martin and Tanner Simpkins for putting this together. Like to thank you for listening and watching. And join us once again when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.